Hi, my name is Nyree. I'm running an adoption support channel and I'm also doing a series on attachment, and we're now on, I think it is number 6, which is all about nighttime and attachment. So if you're interested in adoption or attachment, then please subscribe. I'm sure you'll find my channel is very useful to you. I think I'm going to say some quite controversial things during this video, and what I want to say at the beginning is I'm not advocating certain ways of doing things. I'm just kind of giving you my experiences and what I perceive to be what could work at night time regarding attachment. So if you watch the rest of my videos beforehand, you'll understand that attachment is all about the child having that confidence to feel safe around the adult, the primary caregiver, whoever that might be. And of course nighttime is a time when you are not there, so they are not going to feel very safe. And night times and lack of sleep for adopters, or indeed any parents, can cause huge problems, can bring parents to their knees, can actually potentially even destroy an adoption, because if you don't get enough sleep you can't make decisions, you can't function. And so I think it's really important to understand how attachment works at night time. First of all, let's talk about co-sleeping. Now, before we get started, what I want to say to you is I am not somebody who can co-sleep. I can't sleep with a child for very long because I'm a really restless, poor sleeper, and that's already the case. So if I had a child in the bed with me, then I would not get any sleep, and that's not going to help me. But I think we need to talk about co-sleeping in general and the different ways in a way that you can co-sleep. So there's the full-on co-sleeping where you just allow the child in the bed with you whenever they want to, potentially even from the beginning of the night. So you just accept that they're going to be with you all night long. Now, as far as attachment goes, I've got to be totally honest with you. If you have a new child who has poor attachment, then co-sleeping is going to work, because actually you're there. And you're there all night long, and they don't have to worry about the fact that you're going anywhere. Now, the issue around co-sleeping, of course, is then the pattern that you design for that child. So the child will always expect to be sleeping in your bed with you, and this can cause problems between you and your partner. It can mean that you don't have any sense of space, and that would be a problem for me. I need my sense of space during the day and during the night. My husband often laughs because I'm like, right, I need my space around where I'm sleeping. And if you're one of these people, this just will not work for you. But it is true to say that if you, or likely then, if you have a child in the bed with you from the beginning of the night right the way through, they're not going to get the same attachment insecurities and anxieties because you're there with them. And attachment is all about building up the strength of security. If you think about that glue that I talked about, I think in number 3, where you are strengthening that glue and you are strengthening the child's resilience to understand that you're going to be there for them. Children with poor attachment, when you are not in the room with them, whether that be day or by night, they often don't have the concept that you can be somewhere else and thinking about them, or that you can be somewhere else and they can be safe. And this is a massive problem at night time when it's dark as well, and all the other things that might come upon them. So pure co-sleeping is that. They're in your bed for however long they want to be. There are other ways of co-sleeping though. So it's not exactly co-sleeping in the same way. You can, so if you're finding that you have a child that has attachment issues and nights becoming a massive problem, you could set up a small mattress or bed in your room. So in that way you at least have your bed space there, but they're in the room and they know you're there, they can hear you, they can see you, and vice versa. So that's the next kind of like level. But obviously this could still cause a problem in the sense that their expectation is to be in your room. From people that I know that co-sleep with their children, I think children do eventually want to get out and go in their own room, but you're talking a long time, potentially, you know, months or even years, and you've got to be prepared for that if you set this sort of situation up, and for many parents that's just too much. The other way to co-sleep is to kind of co-sleep in their room. So if they have a bed that is going to be big enough for you to kind of get into bed with them and then, you know, leave the bedroom when you feel that they are into a deep sleep, you can do it that way. Or indeed you can also put a mattress on the floor alongside them, and again you can then leave the room when you want to. I think you're probably more in control of the situation when you do any type of sleeping alongside or co-sleeping with the child in their bed. The key thing is that they can see you and they can hear you, and that takes away anxiety for children with poor attachment. And anyway, in the early days of an adoption, they're in a strange house, they've maybe had more than one move. It's very frightening for them anyway. Regardless of poor attachment, it's frightening anyway. Then another way of co-sleeping, which I call it more of a co-settle sleep, is for them to know that you're always going to give them quite a long and consistent cuddle every time they go to bed. So you're going to try and lay alongside them or cuddle them quite deeply into sleep. So you're going to allow them to drift off into sleep and you're going to be there with them, and that you also happily do that in the middle of the night. If they call out to you, you do that, and you happily come in and do that in the morning. And it's not exactly co-sleeping, but it is an indication to the child that you will comfort them in quite a long way when they need it. And this means that if they have night terrors or nightmares, which many adopted children do, they know that you're going to come in and you're going to see them and you're going to help them out. Now, yes, children can play on this. Yes, of course they can. But I think for most of us, we can tell when a child is just wanting us for the sake of wanting us there, and actually wanting us because they need us and they're anxious and fretful. I think you can tell the difference between that. And of course you can have conversations with children about that. You can say to them, you know, why are you wanting me here, and get the true answer from them, most likely. Now, I've mentioned in one of my other videos about the importance of transitional toys and how you can get a transitional toy really working for you. And so I think the next step on would be to have a conversation with your child about, yes, you're having cuddles with them, yeah, but you are going to be going back to your bed, and you have a particular toy that will kind of then take your place. Now, the only way a transitional toy works is if you connect that toy to you a lot during the day. So the toy kind of goes everywhere with you. Now, this is what's happened with our boys. They've always had their special toy, and this happened by accident in the beginning when they came to us. They clocked onto these different cuddly toys, and I'm not joking, like, this is now 9 years ago. Yes. 9 years ago they had these toys. They still use these toys now in times of anxiety. Those toys still feature in the bed with them or alongside them, and they used to take them with them everywhere. In the car, when they were playing or when they went somewhere new, they'd have them alongside. Now, what happens is they kind of humanize those toys, but those toys become their kind of replacement or surrogate attachment figure for the real thing. And if you play your cards right and build up this transitional toy to be something really special, you'll be able to say to them, which might help, is, I will cuddle you for a certain amount of time, but when I go into my bedroom, which I will, so when you wake up in the night I won't be there, but such and such will be there alongside you, and they will be there instead of me to keep you company. And if you keep doing that, they will learn to attach to the toy, which sounds quite bizarre, but we've definitely seen that that can work for them. Our boys have had lots of difficulties during the night, lots of night terrors and nightmares, and indeed I'm sure that is because of their abusive and difficult past. So you get other situations where if you manage to be able to separate off from your child quite easily to get them to bed, which will be a progressive thing. So imagine that you've had your child now for a couple of years and you've consistently done what you want to do. So if we move away from the idea of co-sleeping and you didn't do anything around that, but you just settled your child with a really tight routine, and I suggest whatever routine you have for bedtime, it stays almost identical, you know, almost to the minute, that nothing really changes with that routine, that lulls them into kind of that feeling of feeling very secure. If you've managed to get to that point where you're getting the child down and they're going to sleep without being really anxious and fretful about where you are, you've still got the issue that they may wake up at night with night terrors, or wake up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet and then feel very, very anxious. Now this can happen for any children, but of course, again, we're talking about adopted children where this may be more the case. So you've then got the situation where they may be screaming out and maybe very, very, very anxious because you're not there to comfort them. So we're moving on to the next situation where you've got to understand what those night terrors represent for them. So those night terrors represent for them things that have happened to them in the past, maybe things that have happened to them in the middle of the night, but they also represent for them a mixture of emotions and things that can just come upon them in the middle of the night in the dark. And we've had this with our boys for many, many, many years. I think we're finally at the point now, 9 years later on, where most of the time we don't get night terrors, and when we go in to comfort them at night, it's a quick situation, they just go straight back to sleep. But that's taken 9 years, and so I think it's really reasonable to expect that a child who needs their attachment building, has poor attachment, when they wake up with a dream or a night terror, which you will recognise is extremely, you know, fearful and scared, maybe breaking out into a hot sweat, then it's nice for them to know that you will come into their room and spend proper time with them, and that you won't try to settle them really quickly and leave them, because once you're out of that room and gone, to them you're gone. They have no aspect or picture of where you are or whether you're going to be there for them, and whether these things they see in their mind. And I feel that children can have night terrors whether they're awake or asleep, or sort of semi-asleep, because they can lie there in their bedroom when it's dark, even if you've got a nightlight on, and almost imagine things coming from them. Our boys have often said things like monsters and witches they see, and they talk about it in their sleep, but sometimes we've noticed it's when they're awake as well. So you've got to spend enough time with them in the room and be prepared to say, I'll get you a drink, I'll get you something nice to eat, we'll talk about it, these aren't actually real in your room now, you can see they're not real in your room, and now I'll settle you to sleep and we'll cuddle for as long as you need it, but obviously, you know, mum or dad needs to go back eventually into their bed. You've got to spend time with them in the middle of the night, and it might be that if they don't then break free of those night terrors and sweats and nightmares, that you seek out therapy if you think it's definitely connected with their abusive situation. Now I flip it on its head a little bit. So we've had all that, but we've also had a situation where somebody will just call out, and I'm a little bit deaf anyway, call out, my husband will hear, we'll go to my sons who are now 11 and 12, but one son in particular, up until about 6 months ago, was still calling out my husband just to go and accompany him to the toilet and back. You could say that's weak attachment, and it might be, but after a while we realised, no, that's just, he doesn't want to get out to the toilet on his own, it's a bit dark outside, you know, we don't mind him switching lights on. And so you've got to kind of know when it is becoming a behavioural thing to kind of manipulate a little bit, or whether it is around attachment, and you will get to understand that over time. That's something that you will work out over time, even if you don't get it in the beginning. So just a few practical things that you can do to the room, and just in general anyway. Obviously make sure all of the things that I've mentioned in one of my other videos about bedtime and why children don't sleep, so just make sure all of those things are out of the way. They're not too hot, too cold, they've eaten enough, all those things. That's in another video, I'll link it for you. In the room, obviously you can have a nightlight on, but I suggest you don't go too bright with that, because I think research has shown that if you have too bright a nightlight, that could actually work against you. So try to keep the night really low. I have another video as well about a grow clock, and that has a blue nightlight on it, and I think that's sufficient light in the room really. So keep it a low light, but you can have other things in the room which are quite close to them. The toy is one, but also you can have pictures of yourself in the room. Weird, I know, but it's a reminder that you're not very far away and that you are part of their family and you are there. So that could be quite close to their bedside. That's one idea. Bedtime routine could always include stories around not being afraid of the dark. You know, there's no such thing as monsters as one that I've shown on my channel, but there are loads around not being afraid of the dark and really cute stories around that, so seek out those. And the other thing that you can do, which works for some children but for others makes them too awake, is to put some music on in the background that just runs through until they get to the end. And you know what, it's fine if they listen to the same thing over and over again every night. It could be a particular DVD they love listening to. You say to them, I'll put this on and I'll just let this, you know, go low in the background, and then when we get to the end, you know, you'll probably have fallen asleep. Now that didn't work for our boys because it kept them awake, but for some children that would definitely work. So don't be afraid of the fact that this might take a long time to get right, because attachment in itself takes a good amount of time to grow. So a couple of years, I would say, for you really to see real results from attachment and bonding. And so obviously nighttime will be the same, if not longer. So you're in it for the long haul. Just try to be patient, try to be calm. If you're not getting enough sleep yourself, then try to take some rest during the day so that you are making sure that you're looking after yourself and dealing with that self-care. So I hope that helps you. This is number 6, a bit longer than some of the others. So I was just checking to see what next one we're going to be doing, because that was number 6. So number 7 is attachment in everyday home routines. So especially if you're at home with your child, how to deal with attachment issues and build an attachment. So I hope that you found my channel, and if you have, please subscribe. It's not all about attachment, it's all about general adoption topics as well. And so I hope you'll join me on Adoption with Nyree. Thank you.